You will document for a machine, but not for your own team. Let that sink in. The villain here is not Anthropic. It is not Claude or Copilot or Cursor. The villain is you. Specifically, it is a decade of engineering culture that decided documentation was beneath serious developers. Self-documenting code, they said. Read the tests. The source is the truth. Every senior engineer had a version of this sermon, and it worked beautifully as long as the only people suffering were junior devs, new hires, and future maintainers. People with no leverage. People who could not push back. But now Claude shows up. And suddenly the same engineer who refused to write a README for 3 years is hand-authoring a pristine CLAUDE.md file with architectural overviews, module boundaries, and preferred coding patterns. Funny how that works. Here is proof this is not an accident. It is a pattern. Point 1. Context window optimization. Developers figured out fast that large language models perform dramatically better with structured context. Garbage in, garbage out applies to inference just like it applies to everything else. So they started writing detailed docstrings, type annotations, and module-level summaries, not because best practices finally clicked, but because the LLM rewards them with better completions. The token window is finite. Clean documentation means fewer wasted tokens and higher quality output. When the machine gives you immediate, measurable feedback for writing good docs, you write good docs. When a human colleague silently struggles for 2 days because your function signature is a riddle, you never hear about it. No feedback loop, no behavior change. Point 2. RAG pipeline dependency. Teams building retrieval-augmented generation workflows for internal codebases discovered something brutal. The RAG system is only as good as the documents it retrieves. Embedding quality collapses when your repo is full of cryptic variable names and 0 inline comments. So overnight, documentation became a dependency, not a nice-to-have, a hard dependency in the pipeline that determines whether your AI tools actually work. Engineering managers who spent years losing the documentation fight suddenly have ammunition, but only because the machine needs it. The humans needed it too. Nobody cared. Point 3. Prompt engineering as documentation by another name. Look at any serious Claude or Copilot Power user's workflow. They maintain system prompts, project context files, rules files. They write explicit instructions about code style, error handling preferences, architectural decisions. That is documentation. That is the exact same knowledge transfer artifact that would help a new team member ramp up in days instead of weeks. But it lives in a dot file for the AI, not in a wiki for the team. Same information, same effort, different audience. And the AI audience wins every time. If this pattern disgusts you as much as it disgusts me, subscribe. Because the industry needs more people willing to say the uncomfortable thing out loud, and we are going to keep saying it. Now here is the counterargument, and it is not terrible. Some people will say this is actually a net positive. The argument goes like this. Developers were never going to document for humans. That battle was lost. But if AI forces them to document anyway, the documentation exists now, and humans can read it too. Rising tide lifts all boats. And I will admit there is a sliver of truth there. A CLAUDE.md file is more useful to a new hire than no documentation at all. But here is why that argument falls apart. The documentation being written is optimized for inference, not for understanding. It is structured for token efficiency, not for narrative clarity. It tells the machine what patterns to follow. It does not tell a human why those patterns exist, what alternatives were considered, what traps to avoid. Machine-readable and human-readable are not the same thing, and pretending they are is the next lie this industry is telling itself. So here is where we land. The documentation crisis was never a tooling problem. It was never a time problem. It was an empathy problem. Developers document for Claude because Claude gives them something back immediately. Better completions, faster shipping, visible, selfish returns. They do not document for colleagues because helping a teammate ramp up is invisible work with no dopamine hit and no performance review credit. The incentive structure of modern engineering culture values output over knowledge transfer. And AI tools just made that bias impossible to deny. So tell me, if you will spend 30 minutes writing a context file so an LLM understands your code, but you will not spend 10 minutes writing a README so a human does, what does that actually say about how you value your teammates?